It's late. The room is dark. The only light comes from your phone screen, glowing softly as you scroll aimlessly. You're not really looking for anything, but there it is. Someone you barely knew from high school just posted a picture next to a brand new Lamborghini. Seriously? The caption says something like, "Hard work pays off," sprinkled with some motivational emojis, of course. You swipe again. Now it's a friend from college, on a beach in Italy, drink in hand, looking effortlessly happy. You can almost hear the waves and the clink of ice in that fancy glass. Meanwhile, you're sitting there staring at your checking account balance for the third time this week, hoping it magically changed. It hasn't. Then it hits you. That small but sharp voice in your head that whispers, "Wait, am I doing something wrong? Like, am I behind and just don't know it?" That right there? That's what I call the aha but ouch moment. It's a mix of envy, curiosity, and a touch of panic. You don't even want a Lamborghini, but you do want to know you're on the right track. That you're not the only one still trying to figure this whole money thing out. The problem is, most people don't actually know what normal looks like financially. We're all just guessing. And let's be honest, guessing with your money, that's a dangerous game. So if you've ever thought, am I saving enough? Or is this amount of debt normal? Or even, is it too late to start building wealth? You're not alone, and you're in the right place. Hey, I'm Nate, and my mission is simple: to make your money work. On this channel, we break down personal finance and wealth building into simple, clear, no BS steps you can actually use. Whether you're starting from scratch or just feel like you should be further along by now, this is your space to finally get some real answers. I'll admit something. I'm embarrassingly into financial data, like I nerd out over net worth stats. I've spent more time than I'd like to admit combing through census spreadsheets and Federal Reserve reports. I'm the guy who looks up median income trends for fun. Yeah, I know, thrilling stuff. But here's the upside: you don't have to be into it, because I am. I'll dig through the boring charts and overwhelming numbers to bring you the real story behind the averages, so you can stop comparing yourself to Instagram highlights and start building something real. So if you're tired of feeling behind, tired of guessing, and ready to finally feel confident about your money, stick around. We're about to make personal finance actually make sense. Here's why this matters. Once you actually see the real numbers, the hard data behind what average money really looks like, you'll never look at your paycheck, your savings account, or even your spending habits the same way again. It flips a switch. And just like that, it's not just about how you feel you're doing with money. It's about how you're actually doing with real context. So if you're even a little bit curious about how money works, without getting dragged into boring lectures or finance bro buzzwords, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Give this video a thumbs up. Trust me, what we're about to dive into? This is the kind of stuff your future self is going to thank you for. Now, before we unpack the financial numbers of the so-called average person, take a second. Close your eyes and picture it. When you imagine the typical American's finances, what do you see? Is it someone slowly stacking their savings little by little, like grains of sand stacking up? Or is it more like a tightrope walk? Rent due Friday, credit card payment due Monday, just hoping the car doesn't make that weird sound again? The truth is, most of us carry around this blurry picture of normal. And based on that picture, we decide how we're doing. Some of us assume we're crushing it. Others feel like we're way behind. So here's the twist. Almost nobody actually knows. We're all out here guessing, flying blind, trying to navigate our financial lives with instruments we were never taught to read. And once you do see the real numbers, once you finally learn what's typical, what's common, and what's actually possible, it doesn't just inform you. It changes you. So let's take a look. Let's start where just about every financial journey begins. Not with a trust fund or a hot stock tip, but with that good old regular paycheck. You clock in, you clock out, and at the end of the week, money lands in your account. That's the engine most of us are working with. And according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the median weekly earnings for a full-time worker in the U.S. hover just above $1,000. Sounds solid, right? Multiply that across the year, and you're looking at roughly $52,000 before taxes. Now, this is the part where most people start to breathe a little easier. 52,000 a year? That's decent. I can work with that. Pay the rent, get the groceries, maybe even squeeze in a weekend trip or two on paper. It sounds like enough to handle the basics with a bit of cushion. But here's where reality crashes the party. Uncle Sam shows up with both hands out, and he's not alone. Between federal taxes, state taxes, Social Security, and Medicare, not to mention health insurance premiums, retirement contributions, or other employer-based deductions, your paycheck starts shrinking like a wool sweater in a hot dryer. That shiny 52,000 quickly shrinks down to somewhere around 35 to 40,000 in actual take-home pay. Yeah, that's not a rounding error. That's your lifestyle being quietly redefined before the direct deposit even clears. So what does that look like in real-world terms? Well, after all those deductions, you're left with around $3,100 a month, give or take. That's the money you've got to stretch across everything: housing, food, transportation, healthcare, insurance, childcare, if that's in the mix, gas, utilities, internet, clothes, emergency dental visits, and of course, those 5 streaming platforms you keep forgetting to cancel. Every dollar has a job before you even realize it. And here's the trap most people fall into. We don't compare net income, we compare lifestyle. We see a neighbor's new SUV and assume they've got money coming out of their ears. We see beach selfies and shopping hauls and assume someone else made it. But what you're really seeing? Highlight reels, not bank statements. Most people, they're not rich. They're just really good at looking rich. And that's not a dig. It's just the modern game. But when you're comparing your behind the scenes to their highlight reel, you will always feel behind, even when you're not. Here's where it gets really interesting. You can feel broke earning $80,000 a year, and you can feel in control on $40,000. The difference isn't just in the numbers. It's in the margins. It's in the space between what you earn and what you spend. Real wealth isn't about income. It's about what you keep and how you use it. Let me give you a quick metaphor. Imagine walking into a restaurant and ordering what you think is a full entree. The waiter brings it out, beautifully plated, neatly wrapped, and for a moment, it looks generous. Then you unwrap it and realize it's a half sandwich, cut diagonally to give the illusion of more. That's your paycheck. The number on the stub might say $1,000 a week, but what hits your account is that little half sandwich, and you didn't even notice how much was missing until you opened it up. That's why understanding your actual take-home pay is everything. Not the headline salary, not what you make. What matters is what you keep, what actually hits your account and stays there long enough to build something with it. And if you want to start making smarter moves with your money, it starts right here. Forget what anyone else is flashing online. Forget the job title, the zip code, the car in the driveway. Before you compare yourself to anyone else, ask this: do I know exactly where my money goes? If you do, congratulations. You're already further ahead than most. Because the people who build real financial momentum, they don't just track income. They understand spending, habits, and goals. That's how you stop feeling behind and start building something real. Now let's zoom out and talk about the long game, retirement savings. It's not flashy, it's not trending, but it might be the most important financial conversation you'll ever have with yourself. According to the Federal Reserve, the median American has about $87,000 saved for retirement. That number might make you feel either relieved or panicked, depending on where you're at. But here's the catch. That figure only includes people who actually have retirement accounts. And the real kicker? About 1 in 4 Americans, roughly 25%, have no retirement savings at all. None. Zero. Nada. Picture 4 coworkers grabbing lunch. Statistically, one of them has no plan for when the paychecks stop. Their entire future strategy is basically, hopefully Social Security is still around when I get there. Let's sit with that for a second. Right now, the average monthly Social Security benefit is about $2,008, which adds up to just over $24,000 a year. Now, that's not terrible as a supplement, but for millions of people, it's the entire plan. And here's the number that really lands. If you retire with the median amount, about $88,000, and follow the classic 4% withdrawal rule, you're looking at about $3,500 a year in income from that nest egg. That's less than $300 a month. Let that sink in. $300 a month doesn't even cover a full grocery run for a family of two these days. That's not just tight, that's terrifying. And yet, that is what average looks like right now in America. Now, maybe you're thinking, well, I'll just keep working longer. But here's the truth. Retirement doesn't always wait for your permission. It's not always something you choose. Health issues, layoffs, burnout, caregiving. These things have a way of changing your timeline whether you're ready or not. That's why the people who retire comfortably usually have one thing in common. They started early and they stayed consistent. It wasn't magic. It wasn't luck. It was math. Small, steady contributions made over time grow into something real. Even if it doesn't feel like much now, it adds up. Let's bring this back to the present. Your bills. According to the latest data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the average American household spends about $6,440 each month. That's roughly $77,280 per year just to maintain a normal lifestyle. Let's break that down in plain terms. Housing comes in at about $1,885 a month. That's over $22,000 a year just to have a roof over your head. Transportation? That'll run you around $913 monthly, which adds up to nearly $11,000 a year just to get around. Food? That's about $691 a month, or roughly $8,000 gone by year's end. And we haven't even touched healthcare, car insurance, utilities, your phone bill, internet, the occasional night out, or the impulse buys that sneak into your cart when you're only supposed to be browsing. Altogether, it's easy to hit $60,000 to $70,000 a year in basic living expenses. So here's the deal. If your take-home pay isn't reaching that range, you're not saving. You're surviving. You're keeping your head above water maybe, but you're not building anything. And this is where people fall into what I call silent inflation. It's not just rising rent or gas prices, it's the slow, sneaky lifestyle creep. The 5 streaming subscriptions you forgot to cancel. The online shopping cart you accidentally checked out. The takeout that turns into a weekly habit. It's not one big purchase that drains your money. It's the 1,000 little ones. The $15 here, the $7 there, the "it's just dinner" mindset that adds up to thousands over time. Ever gotten a raise and still felt broke 6 months later? That's lifestyle creep. That's how your financial progress gets eaten from the inside out. You make more. You spend more. And suddenly the gap between what you earn and what you keep is just as narrow as it was before. And here's the truth most people miss. It's not about how much money you make. It's about how much you keep and what you do with it. That's where real wealth starts. Now let's talk about credit. Everyone's favorite invisible scoreboard. The average FICO score in America is 715. That lands squarely in the good range, which might sound like a win. On the surface, it suggests a lot of people are handling their financial basics pretty well, paying bills on time, avoiding maxed out cards, keeping things relatively under control. And hey, that's good news. Responsible credit behavior is happening out there. But here's where things get murky. The average American household is also carrying more than $9,100 in credit card debt. That's not a typo. Over $9,000 just sitting there, often on multiple cards. And here's the part that really stings. If your card has an interest rate around 20%, which is shockingly common these days, that debt is costing you about $1,800 a year in interest alone. Just interest. That's money leaving your account and heading straight into the bank's profit column in exchange for absolutely nothing. No product, no service, no value. You're basically renting your past decisions, and unlike a nice apartment, there's nothing enjoyable about it. And let's be real, whatever you put on that card in the first place, it's probably long gone. That weekend getaway, those new clothes, the takeout splurge, it all fades fast. The stuff you bought stops bringing joy long before the debt stops collecting interest. And while the memory might last a moment, the bill, that sticks around. Now here's where it gets deeper and way more real. Your credit score doesn't just affect your ability to borrow money, it affects everything from your car insurance premiums to your mortgage approval odds. In some industries, it can even show up during the job application process. So no, credit isn't just some abstract number, it's a trust score. It signals how reliably you handle responsibility, at least in the eyes of banks and institutions. And that score? It follows you everywhere. Here's the good news. Maintaining good credit isn't rocket science. It's not about gaming the system or memorizing loopholes. It's built on a few simple, powerful habits: paying on time, keeping your balances low, and resisting the shiny temptation at the checkout counter when the cashier says, "Would you like to save 10% today by opening a store card?" Number. No, you would not. Managing credit well is like managing your health. It's not flashy. It doesn't always feel exciting. But it works if you stay consistent. One on-time payment at a time. One smart decision at a time. It's slow, but it's strong. And over time, it opens doors. Lower interest rates, better loan terms, more freedom, and less financial stress. So if you've ever felt buried by credit card balances or confused by that three-digit score, don't worry, you're not broken. You're just in the middle of the story. And now that you see the system, you can start playing it smarter. Let's shift gears and talk about the number that quietly defines your financial reality: net worth. This isn't about what you make, it's about what you keep. It's the clearest snapshot of your financial health. Income is what flows in. Net worth is what stays. According to the Federal Reserve, the median net worth for an American household is about $193,000. And at first glance, that sounds solid, respectable. But once you peel back the layers, the picture gets more complicated. For people under the age of 35, the median net worth is just $14,000. From 35 to 44, it grows to $91,000. Between 45 and 54, it rises to 168,000, then climbs to 212,000 by 55 to 64. Finally, for Americans between 65 and 74, the peak is around $266,000. Here's the twist. By the time most people finally hit a six-figure net worth, they're also on the verge of retiring, and ironically, that's when they start spending that wealth. On top of that, most of what we call net worth is locked up in physical stuff. Homes, vehicles, things that don't turn into cash easily. You can't sell half your driveway to pay an unexpected bill. So while things may look stable on paper, liquid assets, actual usable money, can still be tight. That's why the real challenge isn't what you're worth on paper. It's how flexible and resilient that money actually is. The good news? You don't need a six-figure salary to beat these numbers. No winning lottery ticket, no viral business, just simple math and consistency. Let's say the average household saves 6% of their income. If you commit to saving 12%, congrats. You're already doubling their long-term trajectory. That's how wealth starts, not with some giant leap, but by walking twice as fast in the right direction. This is where compound growth kicks in. In the early years, it feels slow. You're saving, investing, watching your balance crawl upward. It can feel pointless. But after a while, the curve starts to bend. Growth becomes exponential. It's like learning a second language. In the beginning, it's just awkward sounds and half-understood words. But one day it clicks, and everything accelerates. That's how money works when you stay consistent. You plant small seeds, and years later you get the forest. So if you felt like net worth is some distant, impossible goal, don't. It's not reserved for the wealthy. It's built through regular habits, repeatable decisions, and a mindset that says, "I'm in this for the long game." Let's talk about the decision that quietly shapes your entire financial future: how much you save. This one habit, your savings rate, does more to predict long-term wealth than almost anything else. And right now, the average American saves about 6% of their income. That might sound okay, until you realize that includes short-term goals like vacations, car repairs, and holiday gifts. That's not wealth building. That's just staying afloat. If you want to actually build wealth, long-term, durable, life-changing wealth, you've got to aim higher. 10 to 15% is the floor. Want to retire before the age of 65 and have true financial freedom? Start thinking about 20%. Now I get it. That number feels steep. It sounds impossible when you're already juggling bills, inflation, and everything else life throws at you. But here's the beautiful part. You don't have to start there. Start small. If you're saving 6% now, bump it to 8%. That's not just a tiny step. That's a 33% improvement in your savings rate. Let that compound for a year. Then bump it again. 10%. 12. 15. Over time, that tiny difference creates a massive gap between being average and being financially ahead. And the best part? This isn't about cutting out everything you love. It's not about deprivation. It's about design. Wealth isn't built on self-denial. It's built on systems. You don't need to get rid of joy. You need to automate your discipline. Set up your life so saving is the default, and spending takes effort. Most people do the opposite. Spending is automatic. Saving is wishful thinking. This is psychology, not just math. It's the habit loop in action. When saving becomes automatic, it stops feeling hard. It stops being a question of willpower. And that, right there, is the key difference between people who succeed financially and those who don't. The successful ones design systems where saving just happens. The average person has to remember to save, choose to save, force themselves to save. And as life gets louder, it just doesn't stick. At this point, you might be thinking, okay, Nate, I get it. People aren't saving enough. But seriously, life's expensive. What else can I do? Totally valid. But here's the truth. Most people don't fail because of math. They fail because of mindset. They look around, they see what others are doing, and they assume that's normal. They match it, they follow it, they normalize the struggle. But if you zoom out and look at the actual numbers, it's clear normal isn't working. Most people are stressed, in debt, and behind. So the goal isn't to outwork everyone. It's about making better choices, consistently. If the average person saves 6%, you save 10. If they carry over $9,000 in credit card debt, you carry 0. If they retire at 61 hoping Social Security holds together, you retire on your terms. The path forward isn't complicated, but it is uncomfortable. At first it feels painfully slow. You're pushing your financial car uphill. Every bit of progress feels like effort, like strain. But if you stay consistent, one day, the hill flattens. And then, you start to coast. The momentum kicks in, and suddenly, you're cruising downhill while everyone else is still stuck at the bottom, spinning their wheels. Here's where it gets powerful. Once you feel financial traction, it's addictive. Watching your debt shrink, your investments grow, your net worth rise, seeing your money work for you instead of against you, it's like getting a preview of your future freedom. It's no longer about theory, it's about results. And that's the moment everything changes. All right, let's pull the whole picture together. Here's what the average financial life in America actually looks like. First, the average full-time worker earns around $52,000 a year, but only takes home about $38,000 after taxes and deductions. Second, the average household spends about $67,000 annually, which means most people are outspending what they actually bring home. Third, retirement savings. The median balance is just $87,000. That's not freedom money. That's barely survival money. Fourth, credit card debt is sitting at an average of over $9,100 per household. And with interest rates hovering around 20%, that debt grows fast and costs even more. Fifth, the average savings rate is just 6%, barely enough to keep up with inflation, let alone build wealth. And sixth, the median net worth across households is about $122,000. And remember, most of that is tied up in homes and cars, not liquid, not flexible, not ready for emergencies. So what does that all add up to? The average American financial life isn't strong, it's fragile. It works until one thing goes wrong: a job loss, a medical bill, a car repair, and out of the blue, the whole system cracks. Here's the hopeful twist. Beating the average isn't complicated, it's not glamorous, it doesn't go viral, but it's absolutely doable. If you consistently save more than you spend, avoid high-interest debt, and build habits instead of relying on motivation, you will outperform the norm. Guaranteed. Fast forward a few years, and you'll either be celebrating your freedom or wishing you had started sooner. The difference is what you choose today. Average isn't destiny. It's just data. And once you know what average really looks like, you can see, clearly, how to do better than average. So let's make this real. Here's your 5-minute money homework. Simple, powerful, and personal. Remember that late-night scroll moment? The Lamborghini? The vacation in Italy? That sinking feeling in your gut like, am I behind? Here's how you start flipping that script. This week, do 3 things. 1. Pull up your most recent paycheck. Look at what you actually take home after taxes and deductions. Know that number. 2. Scan your last month of spending. Are your dollars going where you want them to go? Or are they just drifting away on autopilot? 3. Calculate your current savings rate. Even if it's 2%, know the number. Awareness is everything. Then pick one small move, just one. Bump your savings rate by 1%. Make an extra credit card payment. Cancel that subscription you forgot you had. That's it. Start small. Start now. Remember the people flexing on social media? They're not your competition. Your past self is. Every smart move you make today is your future self stepping closer to freedom. The kind of freedom that doesn't rely on luck or vibes or lottery tickets, just clarity and consistency. So drop your goal in the comments. I'll be reading and I'm rooting for you. I'm Nate, and I'm here to help you make your money work. Thanks for hanging out with me today. If this shifted your perspective even a little, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe, and share this with someone who's ready to get serious about their money. Because understanding this stuff, it's not wizardry. It's not reserved for the elite. It's knowable, learnable, and 100% doable.